coming from the appellate judges today. How serious is that ridicule within the Nigerian judicial system?
Well, the Court of Appeal couldn't have come out with less stronger words than that, because clearly Justice Peter Lifu was on a mission to cause anarchy, and he needed such kind of reprimand. And I know the National Judicial Council will be waiting for him. He has attempted to destroy the very foundation of Nigerian legal system, which is the principle of judicial precedence and the hierarchy of courts, and that's how the law becomes a very certain instrument that ensures stability in the polity. So what Justice Lifu had attempted to do was a terrible thing. It was defining the election before the election. It was trying to paint President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in such bad light that he didn't deserve, because all of these bad machinations coming from the judiciary are all the time attributable to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's unusual, in quote, influence over the judiciary. The judiciary must stay clear from politics, and Justice Peter Lifu was actually committing a democratic crime, and the Court of Appeal has done well by using such strong words in condemning the action of the judge. And I believe the judge will learn. It's a learning process. You're
confident in the NJC. I mean, some Nigerians thought that by today we should have seen that action coming already from the NJC.
The NJC operates in a slow, sure movement. That is also certain. Okay. I can sit here and predict the outcome of what the NJC will do. The NJC is not just a collection of jurists led by this Justice Supreme Court. I mean, it's the Chief Justice of Nigeria. But you see, they're time-tested men. Okay. If they want to have a future, they know what to do.
Okay, fingers crossed on that. Sambo, temporary relief, we can say, as Atiku Abubakar of the ADC has described this judgment by the appellate court, and of course INEC's decision to also stay execution. But the political question is there any political relevance to why now and why these 5 political parties? The last general elections were held over 3 years ago, and political parties are preparing for another cycle of election. In some cases for these political parties in a matter of days, others in a matter of weeks, and of course the general election in a matter of months. So why now, and why these 5 political parties? Any political relevance here?
All right, thank you, Adesua. Just to add that with what's happening, it's a judicial coup that has been put in place, and the idea is just to ensure that the likes of ADC, Accord Party, and so on do not submit their candidates' credentials and log it in, because pretty soon INEC is going to open the portal where all political parties will fill the candidates that emerge from their primary election, and from there on the political process will start in full ahead of the campaigns. And of course, this is what you have Nigerian politicians doing when they want to use half measures to actually get to the top. And it's very sad to see that this situation has happened with the Office of the Chief of Staff to the President and former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, being mentioned, and we haven't heard anything from the President's Chief of Staff office. Don't forget, there was also that allegation in the ADC that he had an influence over the ADC House of Rep member that eventually moved to the APC right now, and the harsh words that he had also for the opposition during the wife of that ADC members during the wife's birthday and all of that. So people have been putting things together. And then there's also another gentleman, a former member of the House of Representatives, that's close to the same Chief of Staff to the President, that led this National Association of Former Legislators and all of that, which is now making the opposition to call the name of the Chief of Staff. But of course, in this instance, I had expected that the Chief of Staff to the President will speak very well and open up everything, just like Frank Tietie said here, so that President Tinubu will not be accused unduly of getting involved in issues that I don't think that the President, being a pro-democracy activist in the Abacha era, being someone who was pro-June 12 struggle, will stand and see democracy being brought to this stage. Because I mean, what had happened could have actually led to anarchy. Imagine, these other political parties not being on the ballot ahead of, 2027. That could actually cause problem, national security problem, and it will be difficult for the security agencies to contain because they already have these issues of insecurity. So the attitude of politicians out of government and in government is one that we need to really contain. And for the political parties too, the opposition leaders, it's not just fair to start saying that the government is interfering this and that. Are you also following through the books? And then, of course, look at the judge himself. I mean, this is someone who has a master's in political science, Justice Peter Lifu, from the University of Ibadan. Someone who has a master's in political science, finding himself to becoming a judge, should understand these issues better than someone who didn't read political science. But why was Justice Peter Lifu insistent on passing this judgment? Because it was initially meant to have been passed on June 5, but there was an order on May 22nd that said, don't go ahead.
From the Court of Appeal?
Yes, don't go ahead. But he now went, and the most interesting thing here is that INEC was not even invited to that judgment yesterday. They only read about it in the media when we broke the news. And said, how could you have been given such a judgment that will affect me, me as the regulator, and you didn't even invite me to witness it? And it was done 2 hours before the judgment, and lawyers were called, summoned as if it was, a Gestapo tactics that was being used by Justice Peter Lifu. And I'm appealing to the Chief Justice of Nigeria. This is the time for her to actually ensure that she contains, people like this in the judiciary, so that, we don't have a situation whereby elections are tampered with. Because if these elections don't hold in 2027, there could be serious problem for Nigeria. And these are the attempts. We're already seeing the sort of things that happened with the Association of Better Nigeria and all of that, the late Justice Ikpeme. These are the things, the agenda is being set.
June 12, 1993 election.
And so some people are beginning to say with what, Senator Bamidele brought in place that, look, he's going to bring a single term. People are beginning to talk and add all of this together. That looks like maybe the government party doesn't even want elections to hold.
It does look like a lot of anomaly with what Justice Peter.
We don't even have enough time on the timetable. INEC is complaining of time.
So let's go back to the law, Frank Tietie. Section 258, the famous Section 255A of the Constitution, does give INEC powers relating to party deregistration. So the question would be, did Peter Lifu cross the line between interpreting the law and exercising powers over INEC and the deregistration of parties? Speaking to the law itself now.
I think until Peter Lifu, Honorable Justice Peter Lifu, is properly convicted by the National Judicial Council, let's give him his right to fair hearing. Who knows under what influence he was when he delivered that judgment. There are all sorts of influences these days on judges. Either it could be prebendal, or it could be a bribe, or it could be somebody telling him that this is what the president wants, whereas the person never met the president never told him, or Lifu never even heard the president. But somehow I know that these are the things that influence judges when they receive heavy bribes and when they hear that the president is interested and do this favor to the president. And these things are most times non-existent. Now, you see, the Section 225A emphasizes the independence of INEC. It is wrong for anybody, for that matter, to try to tell INEC what to do. Not even the courts can do that. So Justice Lifu went too far. He should have left it at declaring the powers of INEC based on the provisions of Section 225A, that INEC does have the powers, but he couldn't at any point, because INEC is a repository of all of the considerations and circumstances that affect certain decisions. And INEC would not be that, foolish to think that after all of the investments by politicians and political parties and the government in this process of electioneering and all that, and then it wants to create this kind of chaos. So the judge actually failed a noble duty in terms of preserving the public interest. But I am looking forward to his defense. However, unfortunately, it happens that the judiciary is manned by persons who don't understand that no amount of money is worth derailing or defeating justice. And that in fact, to become a judge, you have to be self-effacing, you have to be self-sacrificial, you have to leave the things of this world and attend to that, that heavenly, noble work of God of delivering justice, and not falling for, how can a judge not be better than the ordinary politician who is seeking stomach infrastructure? It's a shame.
There's a lot of attention on Justice Peter Lifu, but what about the lawyers who brought this forward, as well as the group, a National Forum for Former Legislators that brought this? One wonder what legal injury they were seeking there to bring this case forward. Could any citizen or group just walk to the courts tomorrow and say, we want so political parties deregistered? Is that what this means? And
that's what everyone is asking. What is the local standing of this group? What injury will be done to them if these parties, are either deregistered or not deregistered? And don't forget, there was a summit sometime last year of national former legislators where they met with this same former speaker of the House of Representatives, there are so many of them, former Senate President, former speakers, all coordinated by the office of the Chief of Staff to the President. And they held this, they endorsed President Bola Tinubu and all of that. That's why you see opposition politicians now linking it. Because initially when they brought this case to court, the group already knew that they were not registered. They had to quickly go back and change and amend the name to now Incorporated Trustees of the whatever that they are saying. Yes, and all of that. And we are wondering if they are legislators, former legislators, they should be seeking the peaceful coexistence of Nigeria, not trying to disrupt the polity. Who is funding them? Who is bankrolling them at the moment? And then you see, are they trying to bring peace to President Tinubu's government, or they want to paint him black and blue? Now, take a look at President Tinubu's political credentials. This is someone that I know personally. I know President Tinubu that he's a Democrat to the core, although sometimes they play their political games here and there, but he wouldn't want this sort of things to happen. And if Atiku Abubakar, for example, is the one that this is being targeted at, Atiku Abubakar knows the judiciary very well. Look at what former President Olusegun Obasanjo did. Yet, as a sitting president, he defeated President Obasanjo in courts when President Obasanjo was a sitting president. Now, he has gone through the mill. Is it, for example, a court party, Ademola Adeleke, that has been targeted, a sitting governor? So you now wake up and say a sitting governor, after submitting his credentials to INEC, is not qualified to go for election. What's that? In the state that the president has familiar relations with. You would have heard Adeleke saying that he's happy that President Tinubu is from Osun State and all of that. If all of this unroll, we are having a national security on our hands. And I hereby use this opportunity to plead with politicians, especially those in the opposition too, and those in the governing party, to be careful of the sort of rhetoric that they are pushing out, and ensure that President Tinubu's government is able to hold this election peacefully, and Nigerians don't have a crisis to contend with because INEC was not allowed to hold this election the way it's supposed to be. I wonder if we should be hearing from the president himself on this matter. But let me come to, there's an argument, in public spaces now. I need to speak to that. For those who are supporting this deregistration decision by Justice Peter Lifu, they say some of these political parties, right, at one point won elections. However, their candidates have defected, and so leaving them with no office as required by the section of the Constitution everybody is now quoting to say grounds for deregistration. What do you say to that argument, that they don't have any seats, whether at the local to the national level, because those elections they won, they have lost them due to defections? Do they have a point? I think not quite. I think we should look at it from two angles. One, I think that provision is referring to at the time the election took place. And then again, the second issue is the independence of INEC. Nobody should determine, other than INEC, nobody should determine at what point an application for deregistration should be entertained. Yes, what has happened, unfortunately, you have said we've spoken too much about Justice Lifu, but this is actually what we refer to in legal, in practical balance as a H0t job. So some that I can understand, some that Sambo's passionate appeal, these H0t jobs will always come, lawyers will always execute them,
political contractors who always want to go and solicit for these jobs, because what they do is that it may not necessarily be someone from government. There are a lot of people doing a lot of things just to please the president. They don't know that they're actually hurting his chances. For example, suing Omoyele Sowore for abusing the president. What was the meaning of that? I mean, abusing the president. That's why Omoyele Sowore is in court, in the Federal High Court. And so painting the picture that Tinubu is intolerant of abuses.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, you look at it, it's Tinubu that wants Sowore to be
and then to the extent that Sowore was in court yesterday, and then the court didn't sit, and then he missed court today, and then they say, these things, all these things, you know, they reverberate against the reputation of President Tinubu. I don't like it. Look, I want if President Tinubu wins the election, let it be that he won fairly, and not because he stifled opposition voices or he derailed democratic principles, and as we are saying. So the president, like you asked, must at a point speak. I like former President Obasanjo will come out and say, look, I can say his mind. You know, Obasanjo didn't see opposition figures as their enemies. This is not you read Museveni versus Bobby Wine, or you know. I mean, Tinubu, I think, is more exalted than that as a Democrat.
Well, time will tell. Fingers crossed. Thank you, gentlemen.
And the legitimacy of the results of the election, very important. If you are going to win, you must win.
It is in Tinubu's interest that he wins fairly. So that Nigerians can support him. He needs support, especially that of the
and he wins. People, it will be tainted.
That's the basic question. Who benefits from the deregistration of this political party?
That's why he should speak.
Frank Tietie, Arise News analyst and lawyer. Thank you so much. Sambo, politics